Xcel is not going to risk going on trial for starting the Marshall Fire, where a jury could deliver a verdict well in excess of the $640 million that Xcel and two telecom providers agreed to settle for today. That money will go to insurance companies, Boulder County, and the thousands of victims of that fire in 2021. Our Steve Steger's been trying to shake loose the details on who gets what, Steve.
Yeah, it's been pretty tricky. I talked to a few victims today. All told me that their attorneys told them not to talk about this settlement publicly. I will point out, none of them knew the claims process for this $640 million and how it's going to work. The only person willing to go on the record this afternoon was Tanya Somaru, one of the first voices we introduced you to right here on Next after the fire. She's been something of a de facto spokesperson for the Marshall Fire victims, organizing a Slack channel so they can talk to each other and offer advice through some of the twists and turns. Tanya's family is a plaintiff in this suit, and she was open with me that she has no idea how much her family is going to get from this, hasn't heard much from her attorney. The CEO of Xcel said in a statement that the company hopes this contribution helps create some closure. Tanya says there's really no dollar amount that could ever bring her family or her neighborhood back to normal.
Nobody's whole financially, and then nobody's whole emotionally. Like, just go ahead, come over here when it's dry and the wind is blowing, and you'll just see people who are struggling with anxiety. So, it's hard. It's hard to think about putting an amount of money on that.
I talked to an attorney today who's handled this kind of litigation in California. He has two big questions. First, how much of the pie does the insurance company get here, all the insurance companies? And second, who is going to manage this claims process? What metric will they use to try to determine who gets what? There are nearly 4,000 plaintiffs, so some who lost their homes, others who experienced damage, municipal governments and insurance companies trying to subrogate those losses. This all could get really, really messy, Kyle.
They now make that turn, Steve, from having a common opponent in Xcel to now perhaps having rival interests with one another.
Yeah, and you hope that they have some sort of process thought out. There's a lot being held close to the vest here, a lot of confidential stuff. We don't know if there's been a formula that they've already decided on based on, this is the type of loss you had, these are the other mitigating factors, and this is how much money you'll get from the settlement. But it'd be interesting to find out how much the attorneys are making on cases like this, how much the insurance companies are going to take out of the pie, and how much is left for all the regular people who had huge losses during the Marshall Fire.
We know you'll be working on it.
Yeah.
It's good to have you back on Next, Steve.
Great to be here.
Part of the conversation since the Evergreen High School shooting has been why there was not a school resource officer present that day. Other Jeffco schools, though, regularly go without an SRO. Our Mark Salinger looks at how the district decides which schools get priority.
When students at Evergreen High School return to campus tomorrow, things will look a little different.
I am assigned as your school resource officer for this year.
Odie Tucker will be there. He's the new full-time SRO, now assigned to the school by the Jeffco Sheriff's Office. He recorded this video for students ahead of their return to class.
I'm a protector. I will gladly lay down my life for those that I love, and I love you.
There was no SRO at Evergreen High School on September 10th, when a student shot two classmates before taking his own life. The student fired 20 shots over 9 minutes at the school, reloading his revolver multiple times. There hadn't been a full-time SRO at the school for 11 months, even though we've now learned Evergreen High School is on the list of schools prioritized by the district to have an officer. Jefferson County Schools has 107 elementary, middle, and high schools. Yet documents obtained by 9 News show only 44, less than half, are prioritized to have an SRO. The district partners with 6 police departments and the sheriff's office to provide officers. The reality is there aren't even close to enough trained officers to be at every school every day.
Yes, we did not have an SRO that day. By the time the first shot's gone off, it's already too late.
Tyler Guyton is one of the student body presidents at Evergreen. After the shooting at his school, he wants the country to focus on bigger solutions, not just putting officers in schools.
It shouldn't have to be our solution. The solution should be kids should wake up every day and not fear for safety for going into their schools.
The district focuses on putting the limited number of school resource officers mostly in high schools and middle schools, but they can also respond if they're needed somewhere else where there isn't a full-time officer, like Evergreen earlier this month.
It's of course impossible to know for sure how having an SRO on campus would have impacted the events from 2 weeks ago. Jeffco Schools is now paying 50% of the costs associated with school resource officers at all of their schools. School board documents show that district security spending was trending over budget last year, Kyle.
And it's not like they're saying, this is great, we don't need more. They would like more.
Both the district as well as the sheriff's office acknowledged, hey, we wish we had more officers that were specifically trained for schools. We just don't have that right now.
All right. Mark Salinger, thank you for being here as well. I don't want you to think we take you for granted just because you're always here.
I'm always happy to be here.
All right, Mark, thank you. You think transplants from Texas struggle in their first winter here? Let's see how those self-driving robo-taxis do, huh? Here's Evan Krugel.
Colorado roads are normally clear and dry. But when the weather turns, driving here can be tricky, no matter who or what is behind the wheel.
Robots are going to experience that same thing, where the cameras are obscured by these snowflakes coming in and out of view.
Frankie Zhu knows a thing or two about robotic cars, but hers are designed for outer space.
This is specifically for the moon.
Her lab at Colorado School of Mines tests how autonomous vehicles perform in adverse conditions.
It can come in dust lofting, like in this test bed, there's a lot of dust, but that dust is also like snowflakes in a winter storm.
Just like space rovers, Waymo's cars will rely on a mixture of cameras, radar, and LiDAR to create a 3D map of the vehicle's surroundings. And while snow-covered lines on the road present an obvious problem, seeing through the falling snow is also an issue.
So when we have LiDAR scans in snowy environments, for example, we're going to get a lot of noise in the kind of LiDAR scans. And so that is an obstacle that these self-driving models have to then anticipate and compensate for.
But there is good news for Waymo.
So we're not dealing with a huge chunk of time we spend in the snow.
Weather guy Corey Rappenhagen says those days are few and far between here.
Yeah, you know, believe it or not, we don't have to deal with snow as much as you might think. On average, Denver gets 32 days with actual snow accumulation on the ground.
Waymo says it's been testing snowy conditions in Michigan, and Frankie estimates they'll be able to drive safely through some of it.
So I imagine that there are really similar decisions that need to be made for these autonomous vehicles where the blizzard conditions are just so thick that, just like a human, they're going to have to stop driving.
Should be a fun winter here. Waymo plans to test here in Denver this fall before beginning rides with actual people in the car next year. Kyle, the plan is ultimately to spread to the airport and maybe surrounding communities. Experts say the mountains are likely off the table with current technology.
Yeah, Evan, I would have guessed way over on our number of snowy days. I probably would have guessed like a mountain snow total.
Right, and that's what Corey said was 32 here, but that number climbs into the 60s when you get up into the mountains. That would mean a fifth or a sixth of the year they're dealing with snowy conditions. Obviously, the company will have to weigh where it's worth it to operate and where it isn't.
And the first time an X viewer sees one of those Waymos struggling, get us video, baby, get us video. We will put it on TV. All right, Evan Krugel. Thank you for being here as well.
You're welcome, Kyle.
All right.
Anytime.
No thanks for Chris Bianchi because he hasn't done anything yet.
Shots fired, boy.
I could thank you afterwards, I suppose. You would have guessed the right number of snowy days.
I would have guessed 30 to 35. That sounds about right to me. Keep in mind, 30 to 35 might not sound like a lot. That's still about 10% of the year on average where we have accumulating snow in Denver. And you add in the amount of flakes days where you've got kind of dandruff falling from the sky. That adds on. It's about 40, 50 days a year that we get some sort of snow for us here in Denver. Now, fall leaves, right? Quiet weather, but those fall leaves will peak for most of the main areas in the high country this weekend. And the good news is most of those leaves below 11,000 feet likely survived that snowstorm that we got. Peak will likely be through the first couple of days for us in the month of October. High pressure builds on in. That's going to keep us on the warm and dry side for the next few days. And tomorrow, we'll spike those temperatures by about 10 degrees compared to today. Top down the upper 60s in Denver today. Tomorrow, more like the upper 70s and low 80s, Eastern Plains, 60s and 70s if you're lucky enough to be doing some of that leaf peeping in the high country. That weather this weekend looking pretty nice, though we will see some mountain storms return for us for both Sunday, Monday, and in Denver, we stay dry into next week.
Thank you, Chris. I read recently that people with autism are 4 times more likely to feel intense loneliness and social isolation. And then I wondered if this week's national discussions about autism, from powerful people in government to the media, made that situation better or worse. And then I got to thinking that maybe we could do something together to help Coloradans with autism lead more joyful, meaningful lives. That's why this week's Word of Thanks microgiving campaign supports the nonprofit Revel. They help neurodiverse Coloradans find their path to a joyful life. They work with teenagers and adults, offering one-on-one support, social opportunities, focused guidance to help people lead the lives that they imagine for themselves. Friends, connection, a fulfilling job, learning, community, collaboration to break through their own individual barriers. Revel is there when young people with autism and intellectual and developmental disabilities approach the cliff where services drop off at the age of 21. They're there with them building skills, confidence, and independence as they crush social isolation and loneliness. Scan the QR code on your screen or text the word THANKS to 303-871-1491 to get that link to donate. Your 5 years of microgiving, raising $16 million in our state, proves $5 really does add up. You know I'll never ask you to give alone, so as always, I'll match the first 50 donations of $5 to get us rolling. More than 6,000 of you have signed up to make a monthly donation to the Word of Thanks Fund. You put in your info once, and each month, we don't bother you. Your donation just gets automatically split among the nonprofits we feature. You help everybody, and it's meant an additional $35,000 for each weekly microgiving campaign. A prominent voice on Colorado Talk Radio says it is time for conservatives to defend free speech.
It's really important that the people who have the levers of power stand up for first principles, stand up for free speech.
And CU's latest project sucks, just like it was designed to do in space. Unsurprising news alert. Colorado's only Republican governor in the last 50 years is endorsing the establishment candidate in next year's GOP primary. Bill Owens is backing State Senator Barb Kirkmeyer. Owens and Kirkmeyer line up pretty well politically. Traditional conservatives, not completely in line with MAGA. Any Republican is going to be a long shot. When Democratic Governor Jared Polis is term limited out next year, he won last time by nearly 20 points. Kirkmeyer first faces a GOP primary against a wide field of far-right candidates. Our next conversation tonight is with another Coloradan who, like me, makes his living off free speech. I sat down with Ross Kaminsky, the 850 KOA host, who's an unaffiliated libertarian, to talk about free speech, the Trump administration threatening critics like Jimmy Kimmel, and why Kaminsky is appealing to conservatives and MAGA supporters to stand up for the Constitution.
A lot of folks on the right seem to forget that they're not going to be in power forever. And in fact, they seem to forget that just a few years ago, the Biden administration was using, I'll call it soft power, it wasn't overt regulation, on social media companies to censor primarily conservatives. And so I get very, very frustrated when I see conservatives who claim to care about this stuff now wanting to do the same thing.
Whataboutism is a hell of a drug.
Yes,
right?
It is.
And it's so on trend now where it's, well, Biden did some form of this,
right.
So if Trump wants to turn it to 11, I'm good with it because he's my guy. You hear that all the time.
All the time.
It presupposes that there will never be another pendulum swing in American politics, that the left will never again be in power, because what if they turn it to 12?
And I have to say, I understand why they want to do it. You're mad, you were mistreated, and they were. But at some point, it's really important that the people who have the levers of power stand up for first principles, stand up for free speech, stand up for freedom of the press. You and I are in both of those worlds. And again, as I said in a Substack note I wrote this morning, conservatives claim to care about that stuff more often than liberals care to claim that they care about that stuff. And so when the people who really have been jumping up and down for years, protect the First Amendment, protect freedom of speech, and then suddenly you've got Brendan Carr, who, by the way, used to be really good before he was chairman, suddenly jumping in, threatening a private company if they don't fire a comedian who said something that wasn't funny. And to be clear, what Jimmy Kimmel said I thought was really bad. I thought it was worthy of suspension. But as soon as the government jumps in, to me, that story isn't even about Jimmy Kimmel anymore. It's about the government.
But as soon as the government gets involved, that's a whole different world to me.
That's right. And your employer and mine can put almost any conditions they want on our employment. I think you and I both work in environments where we're free to say almost anything, as long as it isn't a lie or calling for violence or something. And you and I both strive for accuracy, but one thing that you and I both do is if we get something wrong, we correct it on the air. If we made the mistake on the air, We both corrected on the air.
Yeah, you correct the mistake where it was made.
But our employers can't put us in jail. And our employers can't, I mean, there's a limit to what they can do. We can lose our jobs. The power of government is a whole different thing. And
my full 15-minute conversation with Ross Kaminsky is up on the Next YouTube channel and on 9news.com. There, we talk about what it's like criticizing the most powerful politician in Colorado without fear of government retaliation. And Ross says that some TV and radio folks kissing the backsides of powerful people is actually a form of authenticity, which I really kind of enjoyed, and I think you will too. Check it out.
So CU and LASP has a tremendous history in space research.
A jumbo dustbuster from CU Boulder launched into space today, where it's gonna hoover up the universe because science. A CU physicist said goodbye this morning to an instrument he has worked on for more than a decade. Time to go to space, little buddy.
This is SMD. IMAP is go.
We're going to see the Falcon 9 take off, carrying the entire IMAP mission. The biggest instrument on the mission is IDEX. So we at the University of Colorado, the Laboratory for Atmospheric and Space Physics, built the interstellar dust experiment, IDEX. Even though it's a dust instrument, we keep it very clean. IDEX is an impact ionization time of flight mass spectrometer. It's a dust detector. When a particle hits a very clean gold target at the bottom of a big open dish, it will vaporize. It will tell you a lot about its original makeup. It will tell a lot about where it came from. And that is probably the closest piece of matter that you could get to the original building blocks of our solar system. So CU and LASP has a tremendous history in space research. And we have students who are committed and very interested in this type of work, so we can work with them. They are helpful. They get their education by performing real tasks.
Engines full power, and lift off. Go Falcon, go IMAP, go Swifo L1, and go Corruptor.
The launch is kind of it's a big stepping stone. You think about all your time and your colleagues and the large group of people, and you sure hope that it's going to work.
IMAP deploy confirmed.
It's an incredible milestone. It's knowledge, it's understanding. It's something that we all share and celebrate as we learn more and more.
Congrats to that team. Let's help Coloradans with autism reclaim the conversation about their lives. Plus your feedback next. People with autism are being talked about a lot this week. So let's celebrate with Coloradans with autism who are taking control of the conversation about their own lives, reaching for their own goals with the help of the nonprofit Revel. To join me and a bunch of other Coloradans in supporting Revel's work, scan the QR code on your screen or text the word THANKS to 303-871-1491. Revel works with teenagers and adults, one-on-one job coaching, behavioral work, social activities, all designed to break through isolation and sadness. I love that one of their stated goals as an organization is joy. Note from Lynn, who says, I started watching when your Word of Thanks Fund, the monthly donors, were at $9,000 a month. Friends, that is what you have built together. There was a day when a lot of our micro-giving campaigns raised about $25,000. Thanks to the folks who are giving monthly, sustained givers, recent campaigns have started at $38,000. That is a powerful force for good in our community, and you built that. See you next time.